Hey everybody, Bob McInnis. Some of my presentation pack and live training clients have asked for a refresher on the very beginning of the sales process, those difficult first 30 seconds of a cold call where you're dealing with all the initial upfront stalls and objections. This coaching video focuses on this one critical piece. You'll still want to follow the entire sales process I taught you, but this will definitely help you get past those initial objections. Really, one of the toughest things you can do as an ad rep is cold call. It can be so uncomfortable and frustrating. Many ad reps dread it, as I once did, and so as a result, often cold calling is kept to a minimum or replaced by easier, much less traumatic, but usually less effective approaches like calling on the phone first to ask for permission to stop in or emailing. So let's talk about that first. One of the cardinal rules of any kind of selling is don't email them if you can call them, and don't call them if you can walk in. And with local newspaper ad sales, you can usually walk in. I know it's strange to just walk into places. They don't want you there, at least initially. We'll talk about changing that in a minute. I know it's tempting for you to just phone or email a prospect. It seems quick and less stressful. But think about how much easier you're making it for them to say no or just ignore you. It's much harder to ignore someone face to face. So if it's a walk-in storefront as opposed to an office, for example, bite the bullet and drag yourself in there. So you walk in, and after you introduce yourself to the prospective advertiser, as I'm sure you've experienced before, their eyes glaze over, and they're going to be caught up in thinking about how to get rid of you and stop listening to everything you're saying. They start saying things like, I have no time, I have no money, my budget is all set, you're too expensive, nobody's reading your newspaper, print is dead, and your newspapers don't work. Don't make the mistake of ignoring their struggle to get rid of you like I was taught to do. It's the thing that will kill your cold call before it even gets started. And don't make the mistake of just answering the objections either. They don't want your circulation or readership numbers, how many page views you're getting online. When they give you objections, they don't want to know the answer. They just want you to leave. Not because of anything that has to do with you, but because they don't want to be sold. So, what can you say? Agree with them. Lower their resistance by initially agreeing with any objection they give you. Focus on lowering their resistance first, or any direct answer to their objections will fall on deaf ears. So let's go through all the objections, but let's start with the mother of all objections, which, as I'll explain in a minute, virtually every other objection is based on, which is response. What if they say your newspapers don't work for them? Just agree with them for a little while so you can actually continue meeting with them and get to the good stuff. Say something like, I understand you're not the first business to tell me this. We have some other people who do wonderfully with our newspapers, but there are some others that can't seem to get a response to save their lives. They spend a lot of money, they see nothing in return, and it's incredibly frustrating for them. It's like they're just throwing their money away. Now stay with me here. You're just trying to lower their resistance, and you should begin to see a change in the dynamic of the meeting at this point. The prospect should start feeling like he's not being sold. He may even stop trying to get rid of you. But keep going. You're not done lowering resistance yet. To completely eliminate it, show him an example to illustrate how right he actually is. Show him an advertiser that didn't do well with your newspaper. That's right. Show him what we call a before ad. Say something like, this guy here ran with us a number of times and got no response. It was killing him. It was like he was throwing his money away. And act like you're about to leave. Of course, you won't leave. Now that his resistance is at rock bottom, almost as an afterthought, say, oh, I can't imagine you'd be interested in this, but once we applied some proven advertising techniques, we got him a dramatic response. Show him the after ad and go on to say he sold out of this and this. And in fact, he found we were the most effective medium in the market. Then say, now, I can't imagine you'd be interested, but I'd be happy to show you some of the techniques we use to help this advertiser get such a great response. In about 30 seconds, you'll have changed the entire dynamic of the sales call. Your prospect will see that you're not trying to sell him and that there's a good possibility that if he gives you a couple of minutes, you could actually dramatically increase his sales, which is, again, the only thing he really cares about. If you need a refresher on the response model, remember I covered in every role play included with each of my weekly presentation pack videos. The great thing about this method of dealing with upfront stalls and objections is that it works for virtually every objection they'll throw at you at the beginning of the sales call, but you have to agree with them first to get them to listen to you. So what if the objection isn't your newspapers don't work? What if it's one of the other ones you're getting? Well, let's go over them. But the great thing is the objection always goes back to a response objection. You've just got to get them to say what they're really thinking. Because what they're really thinking when they give you any upfront stall and objection is, you're not here to make me money. I don't think you're here to get me a response. Every local ad sales objection can be traced back to response. As you've heard me say in the live selling courses, if you walked into a prospective advertiser and put a big bag of money on his desk, on his counter, and said, if you run with us, I'll give you all this money, there wouldn't be any moaning and groaning about rates and budget and circulation and the recession and print is dead. So instead, you've got to first translate the objection they're saying into the one they're thinking, and then you can get the sales process started, similar to how I explained above. So if they say you're too expensive, say, so what you mean, what you're saying is, for the money you need to spend with us, you don't think you'd ever get the response to make a profit, with our rates being where they are. That's interesting. You're not the first person to tell me that. In fact, I have an advertiser here who found we were really expensive because every time he ran, he didn't get any response. Now you're back to the response objection. See how it works? And then you proceed, like I showed in the first example, showing an ad that wasn't working for someone else, acting like you're leaving, and then showing the successful after ad and offer to teach the techniques you use to help the example advertiser get a great response. If they say nobody's reading your newspaper, there's not enough circulation, or print is dead, say, I understand. So what you're saying is there aren't enough people out there reading our newspaper, not enough physical copies out there to get a response. Again, by getting the prospect to agree with that statement, which they always do, now you've brought back the focus to response. Same thing with an objection where in a recession, business is tough, I can't advertise. You turn it into a response objection by asking, so you're saying there are not enough people out there to get a response in this economy. Not enough people buying. Just keep getting the prospect to focus on response. You can later explain how another advertiser eventually realized there were plenty of people out there about to buy when he used the newspaper properly, and then you go on to show the response techniques you use, the response model. It even works with so-called smoke objections, like I have no time or money. Of course, what they're almost always saying is, I have no time or money for you. So treat it the same way, but with a slight twist. Tell them, that's okay, here's my card, give me a call when you have time or money, and I'd be happy to come back and show you other people who never had any time or money. You know why they never had any time or money? Because whenever they did spend the time or money to advertise, nothing ever happened. It was like they were throwing their money away. In fact, I actually have an example here of an advertiser, and of course, don't leave and follow the same approach. You'll be amazed at how often when approached like this, they'll have plenty of time or money to spend with you. So, just to quickly recap, the key here is don't directly answer the objection that they're giving you at the beginning of the cold call. Understanding that they're just trying to get rid of you can go a long way to getting you to the next step. Instead, deal with the resistance first by agreeing and then by shifting the focus over to response, the real objection, and you'll be able to get through that initial resistance so you can move on and fix all their incorrect theories with the response model. Then you can work on getting the right information about their business and products and competition and target customers out of them. When you return with an ad design using the response model, you can prove they'll get a great response just like I taught you and demonstrate in the role play videos each week. So take a look at those. Keep going over this video until you get this little move down for any objection. You can even watch it on your iPhone or iPad or whatever mobile device you have. It plays on all of them. Even right before you go into an account, you can take a look at it. I guarantee it'll dramatically increase your ability to get through those upfront stalls and objections and help you move from vendor mode to partner mode, and when combined with the rest of my techniques, ultimately not only help you sell more ads, but sell larger and more frequent advertising that actually works for the prospective advertiser. Anyway, I hope this helped. Call me if you have any questions. Who knows, you might actually start to enjoy cold calls. Good luck.